Dear friends and colleagues, hello and welcome to the first of the series of podcasts from European Association of Cardiothoracic Anesthesia and Intensive Care in collaboration with Medtronic for the year 2025. I named this podcast as Critical Conversations, the podcast where we dive deep into the challenges, the triumphs, and the evolving dynamics of healthcare professionals like us. My name is Chirojit Mukherjee. I'm the present president of the IACTIC, and today we are tackling actually two critical topics that resonate deeply within the fields of anesthesia and intensive care medicine. They are diversity, equity, and inclusion, commonly known as the DEI, and the pervasive use of the imposter syndrome. Actually, these two topics are interconnected in ways that often really go unnoticed. So DEI efforts aim to create inclusive environments, as we all know, where really everyone feels valued and empowered, while imposter syndrome, on the other hand, can actually undermine those efforts by making individuals really doubt their own worth and capabilities. In specialties like us, where there is high stake involved, like anesthesia and critical care medicine, the precision and confidence are paramount. These issues can actually have profound implications. So over the next probably 7 to 8 minutes, we will explore how DEI and the imposter syndrome intersect in these specialities, the impact on the healthcare professionals, and what we really can do to foster a more inclusive and supportive environment. So let's get started. So in the first part of my talk, I'll make you understand what's DEI in anesthesia and critical care medicine. So first, let's break this down into two topics. What is DEI means in the context of intensive care and anesthesia. So diversity refers to all the representation of individuals from various backgrounds, race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and more. Equity, on the other hand, ensures that everyone has the same access to the same opportunities, while inclusion means creating actually an environment where everyone, I repeat, everyone feels welcome and valued. In anesthesia and ICU medicine, DEI in particularly is important because, as we know, these fields have historically lacked diversity. For example, women and underrepresented minorities are often underrepresented, neglected in leadership roles, and biases which both conscious as well as unconscious can actually affect the hiring, the promotions, and the day-to-day interactions. So, but why really does this matter in the long run or even in the short run? Because the research shows that diverse teams perform better. In healthcare, this translated to improved patient outcomes, better decision-making, and more importantly, the innovative solutions provided by the team to these complex problems. However, on the other hand, achieving true DEI requires intentional effort from leaders, from addressing systemic barriers to fostering a culture of really a sense of belonging to the group. And that's very important. So coming to the second part where we discuss the prevalence of the imposter syndrome. So what actually do we mean by imposter syndrome? So let's shift our focus to this topic where imposter syndrome, actually defined in the typical dictionary, is the persistent feeling of being a fraud despite evidences of one's own competence and accomplishments. So there's really an issue in the present day-to-day practice. It's really common among high achievers, especially the high achievers. And in the fields like anesthesia and critical care, where obviously the stakes are high and the margin for error is very slim, it can be particularly very debilitating. So studies suggest that, the imposter syndrome affects about 70 to 75% of healthcare professionals at some point in their careers, be it men or be it women. So it's especially prevalent, but it's especially prevalent among women, minorities in general, and early career professionals, those who are in the start of the career, who may feel additional pressure to prove themselves in environments where they're underrepresented. So we have seen it in our practices among our new doctors as well as fellows. We see it on a regular basis. So in anesthesia and critical care medicine, the imposter syndrome can manifest as self-doubt during critical procedures, a reluctance to speak up in a team discussion, for example, which may or may not cause even burnout. So the constant fear of actually being found out can take a toll on the mental health and job performance, ultimately affecting the patient care. So in the third part of my talk, I will actually deal with how the intersection and the DEI crosses over and how it affects on our regular clinical practice. So to come to the question, how do DEI and imposter syndrome intersect? For example, for individuals from underrepresented groups, the lack of diversity and inclusion in their workplaces can exacerbate feelings of imposter syndrome. So when you don't see when you don't see people who look like you in leadership positions, or when you face microaggressions or, for example, biases, it's easy to internalize the idea that you don't belong. So on the flip side, fostering truly inclusive environment can actually help mitigate the imposter syndrome. So when people promoted by their leaders or feel supported and they are obviously being valued, they are more likely to believe in their own abilities. That is why DEI initiatives are so crucial. They don't just benefit the individuals, those who are affected, but they also strengthen our entire profession. For example, if you say the mentorship programs where a mentor and a mentee is involved, that they pair the underrepresented professionals with experienced leaders, can provide the much needed guidance and the reassurance. Similarly, creating spaces for open dialogue about the imposter syndrome can actually help normalize these feelings and reduce the stigma. And lastly, we discuss what actually the strategies we need to undertake for addressing the DEI and the imposter syndrome. So now that we have explored the challenges, let's talk about the solutions. So here are probably the few strategies, which is my opinion based on the experience and also from experience of my senior leaders and colleagues. There are a few strategies actually can help address the DEI and the imposter syndrome in anesthesia and critical care. Where what I told previously, the stakes are really high because of the nature of the environment which we work in. So first of all, try to promote mentorship and sponsorship. Pairing the early career professionals with mentors who are obviously senior in their profession can actually offer guidance and advocacy and make a world of a difference. Sponsors in the global community, as in our event today, like Medtronic, who actively champion their proteges for opportunities, are also equally important. Secondly, obviously try to create a very safe space for the dialogue. So encourage open conversations about DEI and imposter syndrome. So these discussions, if you normalize, can actually help individuals who really feel isolated and more supported. And thirdly, implement bias training. This is something which needs to be involved not only in the department, but also in the hospital which you're working in. So unconscious bias training can actually help the teams recognize and address biases that may be affecting their, you can say, the interactions as well as the decision-making procedure. And of course, you have to celebrate the diversity. highlight the achievements of professionals from underrepresented group. Representation matters, and seeing successful role models can inspire others to believe in their own potential. And lastly, I would say foster a growth mindset. Encourage a culture where mistakes are seen as opportunities to learn rather than failures. This can help alleviate the pressure that fuels the imposter syndrome. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this specific thought that DEI and imposter syndrome are not just individual challenges. They are actually systemic issues that require collective action. And obviously by working together, I'm meaning working together not only in the senior level, but also in the junior level to create more inclusive environments and supporting one another through all these ups and downs, where we can build actually a stronger, more resilient healthcare community. So thank you for joining me in this journey. If you found this discussion valuable, please share it with our own colleagues as well as our colleagues in the medical community. Until next time, take care of yourselves and as well as each other. And this is Chirojit signing off from the Critical Conversations. Thank you for your patience hearing.